The ballad is one of the oldest poetry forms. Now, they were developed by anonymous poets. We don't really know who the poets were nowadays because they really go back very far. And it was a kind of verbal poetry. And it was also passed on by word of mouth. There was nothing written down. Um, and so handed down by word of mouth at the beginning. In other words, in traditional form and in traditional times. So therefore, because it was an oral form, it had very specific elements to it. Because remember, the person who actually had to perform this ballad or to sing this ballad or say this ballad, recite this ballad, had to remember quite a lot of words because it's usually a long story. So they had to have some devices to help them along, some cues along the way, so that they remember what the next stanza was all about, or the next thing was all about. So there's a lot of that in ballads. So it's essentially then a short story told by somebody, of course, in verse form, and it usually has a very tragic theme. Um, it doesn't give us a lot of information about background, environment, characters, and so on. It just starts at a certain episode, and it gives us, it focuses on the one episode. It's not as though, oh, one time long ago, and then that happened, then that happened. No, here's one incident that I'm going to tell you about now, right? One incident, one particular episode of, and it makes up a story. It is also on a very specific subject, and this subject bears universal significance. And it had to be like that because, as I said, these were either sung or recited, and it had to have a wide appeal. Everybody had to sort of be able to hook onto something or identify with something about the story. And so it had to have a universal significance and appeal, and no extra details are given. There's nothing about the surroundings. There might be a little mention here and there. We will look at the example that we've got here, a little mention of the surroundings, but it's not important. It doesn't play a big role in the story itself. Nothing much about the atmosphere or the environment. Surroundings, perhaps a little bit. It's touched on, but it's focused on an episode. It makes use of colloquial language because, I mean, if you're singing this poem or reciting this poem, and the words are very highfalutin and you're struggling to pronounce them or something, it's going to be hard for you to remember those words. So it's colloquial language, which also appeals to everybody around. And very often it includes dialogue. Because it had to be memorized, remember there was nothing in writing, it had to be simple. The structure had to be simple. The style had to be simple. The diction had to be simple. And the use of repetition was also there to sort of just get this person to go on to the next phase. Repetition again, the next phase. So it helped the storyteller along. So there's a lot of repetition. It also gives it a lyrical tone. The repetition, as you know, it's a lyrical feature. And to remember then, it was for oral delivery. So all of these things, the dialogue, the brevity of it, etc., helped you to, and of course the repetition, helped you to remember the words and remember the shifts between the stanzas. Now, there are many kinds of ballads. We've already I've told you about the folk or the traditional ballad. What became very popular at a certain stage was especially the Scottish murder ballad. Now, the murder ballads were very, very popular at a certain stage because it was intense and there was mystery and you could think, oh dear, what happened then, right? So we're going to look at one that is also written by an anonymous person. We don't know. It's an anonymous Scottish ballad. And it's written initially in Scottish, but I'm going to read to you a translation, a modern translation, because I don't think Hawker's blood was never so red. Oh no, I don't think we'll be able to go through the poem reading the original. So we're looking at the translation so that you can get the idea. Now, the ballad starts with, of course, the entire ballad is a dialogue, right? With a mother questioning her son. She says, I can see that your sword is red. You've killed something. And then he says, oh, he tries to evade her question. He doesn't want to answer. He says, oh, I've killed my hawk. And then he says, oh, I've killed my horse. I've done this and that. She says, it's something more profound than that. What exactly did you do? And then she carries on until she finally drags it out of him that he had killed his father. But wait, there's more. So let us see. Why does your sword so drip with blood, Edward, Edward? Why does your sword so drip with blood? And why so sad are ye? Oh, oh, I've killed my hawk so good, mother, mother. Oh, I've killed my hawk so good, and I had no more but he, oh. Then she says, your hawk's blood was never so red, Edward, Edward. Your hawk's blood was never so red. My dear son, I tell thee, oh. Oh, I have killed my red-roan steed, mother, mother. Oh, I've killed my red-roan steed, that once was so fair and free, oh. Your steed was old, and we have got more, Edward, Edward. Your steed was old, and we have got more. Some other evil ye fear, oh? Oh, I've killed my father, dear, mother, mother. I have killed my father, dear. Alas, and woe is me, oh. And what penance will ye suffer for that, Edward, Edward? And what penance will ye suffer for that, my dear son? Oh, tell me, oh. I'll set my feet in yonder boat, mother, mother. I'll set my feet in yonder boat, and I'll fare over the sea, oh. And what will you do with your towers and halls, Edward, Edward? And what will you do with your towers and halls that were so fair to see, oh? I'll let them stand till they downfall, mother, mother. I'll let them stand till they downfall. For here nevermore I may be, oh. And what will you leave your children and your wife, Edward, Edward? And what will you leave to your children and your wife when you go over the sea, oh? The world is large. Let them beg through life, mother, mother. The world is large. Let them beg through life. For them nevermore I will see, oh. And what will you leave your mother, dear? Edward, Edward, and what will you leave to your own mother, dear? My dear son, now tell me, oh. The curse of hell from me shall you bear, mother, mother. The curse from hell shall you bear. Such counsels you gave to me, oh. So what did the mother, mother do? She actually told him to go and kill the father. It is really her fault. So that is the one murder ballad, and there are other kinds. You also get the lyrical ballad. One of my all-time favorites is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Unfortunately, we cannot deal with that poem now. It is extremely long. It is in 7 parts, and each one of those parts consists of about 20 odd stanzas. So it's a very, very long poem, but so worthwhile. And I really, really encourage you to look on YouTube for The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It is spelled like that. It's old-fashioned, and it is read by Richard Burton. Beautiful. It will just drag you along in the same way as this other little ballad sort of dragged us along until the end, which is quite chilling. This will also drag you along. It's a long, long story. I'll just give you a little glimpse of it. It's about this ancient mariner who had killed an albatross, an innocent albatross, and because of that, the albatross about his neck was hung. In other words, the guilt was there, and a long story. He could eventually not pray because of that, and he got the curse that he would have to. His soul got absolved by the holy hermit, but he got the curse that he would have to go through life and tell his story from time to somebody. And then this whole ballad is about him telling the story to a wedding guest. And we hear the wedding guest speaking to him after he had started to tell the story that the ship was cheered, the harbour cleared, and he told this whole story. And the wedding guest says, God save thee, ancient mariner, from the fiends that plague thee thus. Why looketh thou so? And then he had to admit, with my crossbow I shot the albatross. That's the one section. And after every section there is a bit about the albatross and what happened about the albatross. Now the albatross eventually flew from his neck when he got absolved. But it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ballad. I really encourage you to go and listen to that. Make time for it. In modern times, of course, ballads are everywhere. You know about them. They are, in modern times, just romantic or narrative songs with a slow tempo, very emotional, romantic. It has a pointed subject matter that invokes sentimentality. It focuses on love and it's nostalgic, and it is often about profound memories and so forth. And you find it in rock, in jazz, in pop, in soul, in country, in heavy metal. You're going to see that it's very popular in modern times, still being used all the time, but in a modern form. I'm just going to give you a few that you might remember or you might know about, that your parents might know about, the older ones. Simon and Garfunkel, I don't know whether you know those, but Bridge Over Troubled Water is an example of a ballad. It came out in 1970. In 1971, you must have heard John Lennon's Imagine. Eric Clapton, Tears in Heaven, about his son that he'll see in heaven, right? 1971. And then Clapton, 1992. You all know about Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. 1992, it's a ballad. Elton John, you must have heard about that as well, Candle in the Wind. These are all examples of modern ballads. And you can see how it came from long, long ago, with the story being told, the emotional content, the lyrical content, and how it sort of touches your soul and so forth. And you, as I say, if you hear one of these again, you will remember, I hope, what we said about the long road, the long history of the ballad.